Good evening. You are listening to the Fumblerooski podcast by Power 88 and Fans Only Sports Network. I'm Adam Wright with CJ Medieros and Justin Tucker. So, we've reached the end of our defensive side of our player countdowns, and we are moving on to the offense. And we're going to be leading off by talking about all things tight ends. So, we're going to start by giving our top 5 rankings going into 2022. And then we're going to go into the fan box, which is where we're going to cover the most underappreciated tight ends in the league. And we love getting your answers. This has been great for the fan box, just getting all your answers on that. So I'm looking forward to reading off these answers. But first, we're going to get into our top 5 tight ends going into the NFL. The 2022 NFL season. So which of you guys want to start with giving our top 5? We'll start 5, then go down to 1. So which one of you guys? CJ, Tuck?
I'll go first.
Yeah, sure. Go right ahead, man.
All right, Tuck, let's go.
All right. So my number 5 guy is Kyle Pitts.
Okay.
First rookie, I believe he's the first rookie tight end other than maybe Mike Dickett with over 1,000 yards in his first season. Congratulations to the Atlanta Falcons for drafting him. He had a great season, a Pro Bowl season. Very impressive for him, and he's looking to build on that in his sophomore year. I believe he will continue to build off that because they have nothing there except Drake London. So I think he will be further successful, and I think he will continue to progress as a tight end.
Yeah, Justin, I got to tell you something. My number 5, also Kyle Pitts. Now, this is a kid who's just dripping with potential. I mean, his first season, 68 catches and over 1,000 yards. The only thing that's really off-putting was he only scored 1 touchdown last season. And when you're outscored by Jacoby Myers of the New England Patriots, there might be some red flags. But at the same time, like I said, the potential is sky high for him. Like I said, this is basically him this is going into next year, and next year he's going to develop even more. He's going to have Kyle Pitts. I mean, they got Drake London there to help him out, so there's no reason to say that he should decline. He's definitely going to improve.
All right, guys. So some of my top 5 in here are going to be a little low for the talent that they've possessed and the ranking that I've had them in past years. But and remember, this is going into the 2022 season. And so my number 5 is Darren Waller. And the reason I have Darren Waller lower than what he should be is because he's been hit by the injury bug a little bit over the past couple of seasons. He's going to have Devontae Adams to compete with in targets. And I mean, we were talking a little bit off camera about this, but Darren Waller is kind of more of a wide receiver. And when you go from wide receiver 1 to wide receiver 2, you're just not going to put up the same production. And that for that reason, injuries and just falling a little bit further down in the depth chart, I have Darren Waller lower than he usually is, and he'll probably go back up by next season. But just because of that, I'm going to put him a little bit lower. And yeah,
Jeez.
All right then.
I don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah,
Darren just used that as motivation.
Yeah, because he was my number 4 guy.
All right, that'll segue us pretty well into the next guy. Why don't you elaborate a little bit?
My number 4 is Darren Waller. Now, granted, he did have an off season, which is why he's not as high up as the other remaining 3. But again, he was the best offensive weapon for an Oakland Raiders team that made the playoffs. So that does take into account how scary good he is when healthy. True, he may be considered the wide receiver number 2 on this team, but he is still the matchup nightmare for any defensive coordinator to scheme against. So when you have to face somebody like him, you're going to have a player that can stay with him, keep up with him, and keep him away from the ball. If you don't have a player like that on your team, then he's just going to ruin your day, regardless if the Raiders have Devontae Adams or not. That's just a bonus. And so I believe he will at least have over 1,000 yards if he can stay healthy. and around 7 touchdowns and still be the monster he always is for the Oakland Raiders.
Yeah, and Darren Waller was also my number 4, to be perfectly frank. Now, Waller, like we said, had a bit of a down year, and we all know about his injuries, but I would argue that perhaps having Davante Adams would help him, because he was basically wide receiver 1 last year in Vegas. But now you're going to have Adams, who more likely than not is going to be double teamed every play, and that will leave you with some pretty favorable one-on-one matchups, be it with a smaller safety or a slower linebacker. And when you have Adams there to take all the heat off you, you could really flourish, like I just said, with a lot of favorable one-on-ones. So, yeah, but just because of the down year, I had him at 4. Where usually some would argue he'd be at 3, but yeah, I'm definitely excited to see what a duo of Waller and Adams could do.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like I said, I still really like Darren Waller, and and Davante Adams is certainly going to be double covered a lot, and that will draw more attention from Derek Carr to Darren Waller. Just the only problem is Davante Adams was still double teamed in Green Bay, and that didn't generate many more targets for Robert Tonyan. Now, Robert Tonyan
it's pretty different, from Tonyan to Waller.
Yeah, but none of the other guys in that Green Bay offense got any targets.
Well, have you considered Green Bay pretty much has a bunch of paper plates on offense besides Davante Adams?
Paper plates.
Well, when you're double covered, I mean, you're not open, then it's up to the quarterback to go and find somewhere else to throw to. And if there's nobody else, if this other guy is wide open, even if he's a stiff, you still throw his way. That's that was part of Tom Brady's philosophy when he was younger, right before Randy Moss got there. It's the best receiver is the open receiver. And and even when they're open, the receivers last season for Green Bay weren't really that good. I mean, you can make a case for Lazard, but still. You still want to throw their way. Plus, Davante Adams was open anyways.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So
like I said, Davante Adams is going to be open anyways in Oakland, but that's neither here nor there.
He's not going to be open in Oakland. He'll be open in Vegas, but I
want to give my number 4, if you don't mind. My number 4, and the more I think of it, the more I might have wanted to put him a little higher, is Mark Andrews. And Mark Andrews had a badass season, career year for him, having over 1,300 yards and 9 touchdowns. As that type of production, especially in a run first offense, is incredible. And just the only problem is that whole team just started to they really had to become a run. They were a run first offense in the beginning of the year, but they kind of had to become a pass first offense. And Lamar Jackson already loved Mark Andrews, so you can understand why his stats really spiked in this season relative to other years. But yeah, Mark Andrews, I really like him, and he's going to be even better next year. I like I said, I'm low key considering maybe I should have had him higher, but I'll probably have him higher next year. I probably will.
All right, no, I'm going first on this. What do you mean? You should have had him higher. I'm
not a fan of him at number 4, frankly.
Before the injuries, that made the team a pass first offense. Then afterwards, when they became a pass first, he was putting up the same consistent numbers regardless. I don't understand why we keep denigrating Mark Andrews like he isn't top 2. Yes,
that's not true. He nearly doubled his numbers from last year with 700 yards.
I'm talking about this year. From this year on, he was consistent with his numbers.
But they were never a run first offense. But they were never a run first offense this season. They lost practically their entire running back core by the beginning of the year. So they really had to turn themselves into. I'm not blaming Mark Andrews for that at all. That's great that he was able to step up like that. I'm just explaining why he was able to put up such spiked numbers, because in years past, when they were a run first offense, they were still great numbers, especially for a tight end, but they weren't they weren't the numbers that he had this year. And the reason why was because they had to turn into a pass first offense.
So you're holding that against them?
I'm not holding that against him. I'm just giving you the reasoning for why his stats spiked. And he did a great job, but I'm just saying, like, it's not like, it's not like they actually,
that's more of an indication. That's more of a against the Ravens philosophy than it is against him. I can't blame him for suddenly increasing his stats because the Ravens went in a different direction on offense because of injury concerns. I can't hold that against him.
That's
what
really
the Ravens for changing the way
just
they
the reasoning for what happened.
Either way, with Hollywood Brown gone, he's definitely going to be like the guy. He's going to be getting like the lion's share of the targets next season.
Right. So he is going to be better.
Yeah. So, and I feel like that's a top 3 worthy.
All right. So even if we went in that direction, I need to hear the other 3. Oh, God. Oh, God.
All right.
Oh, man.
Jeez. You good there, Tucker?
No, I'm not good. I'm not.
Okay, I'm sorry.
All right. Who's your number 3?
CJ, can you please go first? I need a minute.
Oh, all right then. This has yet to happen. All right. My number 3 is actually Mark Andrews. Now, I truly believe Mark Andrews is a top 3 tight end. And when you consider, like Tucker said, his injuries, only starting 9 games last season, really, starting 9 games, like I said, a lot of snap counts for him, still put up over 1,300 yards and 9 touchdowns. And that's insane. And there's reason to believe that he will only get better, because now, without a shadow of a doubt, he will be the guy next year. There is no reason to believe he will not take a step forward, barring a massive injury. But yeah, Justin, you good to take over?
My only counter argument to that is he may not have started those games, but he actually had his highest snap count share, and this is by a mile, his whole career at 75%.
Yeah, that's great, and it's just going to get bigger because now Hollywood Brown is gone, and who are they going to rely on? Rashad Bateman to be a 1,000-yard receiver? I don't think so.
Well, he did show flashes, and I think he will step up like that.
Yeah, and N'Keal Harry showed some flashes his rookie year too. I'm not saying I'm just saying, like, calm down.
Don't do that.
I'm sorry. Well, it was just a comparison. I think Bateman's going to be fine.
We'll talk later, Adam. I can't with you. My number 3 guy.
No, he said he's going to see you after class.
My number 3 guy is George.
I'll see you in the parking lot.
My number 3 is George Kittle. Down year after down year. Injuries has always been a main concern with George Kittle after his 2019 season. When he's healthy, he's a beast, and he's a phenomenal blocker and a phenomenal receiver. The problem is his stats go down when he gets injured. So my only concern is
really.
So if he can stay healthy, then he can continue to put up monster numbers. The problem is he has a problem with staying healthy. If he can stay healthy, then yes, I believe he is a top 3 tight end, which I still believe him, if not top 2 or the best tight end. But my main concern is like health, which is why he's like number 3 instead of like 2 or 1. Come on, Adam. I want to hear this. I need to hear this.
So you have George Kittle at number 3. I have George Kittle as number 3 as well. George Kittle is the type who I have only lower because of injuries, and the injury bug has just hit him so consistently, and it's hit him hard that I just can't bring myself to put him any higher. And yeah, I just think Kittle has taken a step back. And when he's healthy, he's arguably the best. He's the best tight end out there. But George Kittle, he's my number 3 as well.
Oh, I need to know who your number 2 is. And
yeah, I do too. Like that's.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm thinking, okay, all right. I need
I'm
to.
I'm a little scared who your
I'm
number two
scared
is
too
going to
because
be.
if I think of who I think it is, yeah, if that's
Yeah,
a
yeah, and
problem.
if it is who I think it is, yeah, you're going to have to deal with me and Tucker in the parking lot. No,
You're
I'm
gonna have to
kidding, Adam.
talk.
We love you.
My number two is Mark Andrews. I stop beating around the bush. We already know he's top two. I don't understand why we keep lying to ourselves and telling me he's 5 and then what 3?
Yeah,
No, he's
3.
number 2 with the season he had and with the projection he and the I want to say the things he will continue to do with the Ravens offense. I believe he will continue to be successful and continue to get the targets and continue to put up the numbers that will make him a top tight end in this game. He doesn't have Marquise Hollywood Brown to take touches away from him, even though he does have Rashad Bateman, who I think may or may not be an upgrade depending on how you look at it. Hopefully. You look at me like that, but my problem with Marquise was occasionally he would have drops where I would he would have drops where it's like it happens almost out of nowhere. Rashad Bateman doesn't have that problem.
Yeah, that's cool. But do you think Bateman's going to step in and have like 1,200 yards like Hollywood did last year?
He only had 1,000. He didn't have 1,200.
Wait, really? I'm
Yeah.
thinking of someone else. Never mind. But still, you really think Bateman's going to step in and have 1,000, over 1,000? I am skeptical.
I think Mark Andrews could have 1,500 and Bateman could have 800.
Yeah, fair enough.
So that's where my stance is on that. I believe he can increase his output because the Ravens' offense is kind of towards having 2 tight ends on the field. And let's just say, for an example, they do try to double Mark Andrews. Then Rashad Bateman will get a one-on-one, and I like my chances with that. But Mark Andrews is without a doubt a matchup nightmare for any team to go against. When they go into the meeting rooms, defenses have to look at and say, we have to stop this guy, and that is Mark Andrews, and that's why he is number 2. He's not number 1, but he is my number 2. CJ?
Well, yeah, my number 2 personally is George Kittle. And despite the fact George Kittle missed some games, still had 910 yards and 6 touchdowns. And you have to keep in mind, he has been hindered by the noodle arm of Jimmy Garoppolo. And I feel that he can be like that big security blanket, kind of like what Gronk was in New England. And if Trey Lance ends up getting the starting nod, I expect him to lean on Kittle, and I expect Kittle to deliver. And when it comes to talent, I mean, just pure talent alone, I truly believe that there's not a tight end that touches him, from his route running to his hands, to his blocking, to his ability to win 50-50 catches, speed, strength. Like, it's all Kittle. All he has to do is stay healthy, and if he does, I'll probably put him number 1 next year. I know you guys disagree because of injuries, but I mean, that plays a factor, because if he didn't get hurt last year, he'd probably be my number 1. But still, he was better than most, and he was hurt. So, it is what it is. Adam, I am dreading your number 2.
He'd be my number 1 as well if he didn't get hurt. But like, the problem is the injuries do play a factor. So that's why he drops a couple spots for me. And it just hits him so hard. He misses a huge portion of the year, just the past 2 seasons. But my number 2, I have Kyle Pitts. And
the reason, I do not agree with that.
And
why Kyle Pitts? He like I said, Jacoby Myers outscored him.
Look, the touchdowns are a factor. However, when you are the size that Kyle Pitts is, and you're a rookie, to put up 1,000 yards by doing that is just unheard of. And also, he played a big portion of that season playing behind Calvin Ridley. So he's had to work with that, and you become the second tight end in NFL history to go for 1,000 yards. That is unbelievable. And I really don't think the touchdowns. Obviously, if he doesn't improve, then he might almost be out of the top 5 for next year. But
I mean, I know. I'm sorry. Continue.
But I just think it is going to improve, and it's going to improve a lot because he just has the abilities to make it happen. He has the speed, he has the size, he has the route running. All he has to do is make it happen, and he's only a rookie. And a lot of tight ends make big jumps in their second year. I think that's going to happen with Kyle Pitts, and also with a rookie quarterback leaning on him. I think it's going to work.
Yes. Yeah, I gotta side with Tucker on this one, honestly. Yeah, I would still put Mark Andrews and Kittle over him because basically you say, oh, rookie quarterback. Ritter might not even start. He'll have to deal with Marcus Mariota, who couldn't hit the side of a barn from point blank range. And when you look at Pitts, there's talent there.
Ritter's going.
But I wouldn't be shocked if he actually took a step back.
Just if he truly can't hit the side of a barn, he's not going to start.
Mariota, what?
If he truly can't hit the side of a barn, he's not going to start.
Oh,
I don't like Ritter either, but I think he's going to be good enough so that he can give Kyle Pitts enough production.
No.
I'm not having this.
They don't even have a starting caliber quarterback there. And I mean, when you look at Mark and he only got one touchdown, and Calvin Ridley was suspended half the year for the gambling and stuff. And you got, like I say, you got Kyle Pitts, who still gets Matt Ryan. You have Mark Andrews, who's playing with,
Yeah, he played with Russell Gage as well.
Oh, yeah, Russell Gage, because that screams Pro Bowl. And then you have Mark Andrews.
You don't need to win a Pro Bowl to
Lamar
generate
Jackson, and the backup there, I can't believe it's not Lamar Jackson. I mean, I'm just saying, Andrews played with worse quarterbacks. It's not a knock on Lamar. I'm just saying Lamar was hurt.
Did Marcus Colston ever make a Pro Bowl?
Huh?
Did Marcus Colston ever make a Pro Bowl?
Colston? What?
He's talking about the Saints wide receiver.
Marcus Colston from the Saints. He's one of
the No. He never made a Pro Bowl.
Exactly.
Okay.
So does that mean that he's just not going to generate? Oh, he didn't make a Pro Bowl, so no. Julian Edelman never made a Pro Bowl.
Yeah, I feel like that's a bit of a jump, but so also who's talking about Pro Bowls? I didn't talk about Pro Bowls.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did.
No, I did not.
Yeah, you did. You said, yeah. You said, and
did I say Pro Bowl caliber? Because that's something
you said
else.
You said that screams Pro Bowl.
You know what? I think I remember that, but that's not what I meant. You know what? Sue me. I misspoke. But still, even still, that just screams at least top three. But look, I'm just sorry. I don't think Kyle Pitts is the second best tight end, situation or not.
I said going into the 2022 season.
Yeah, and even talent wise, he's not top three.
So I'm predicting a top 2 season for him. That's just what I'm predicting.
So you're thinking he's going to have 1,300 yards and 10 touchdowns.
Yeah.
When he couldn't even score 2.
Mm-hmm.
I think he can do that. Maybe he can score 8. Well, let's say he scores 8 in 1,300.
With that offense, with that quarterback, with that system, you think, yeah.
As a rookie, he was able to get over
not in a very favorable situation. Downgraded quarterback, downgraded the weapons around him, and not to mention he's going to be double teamed every play.
Play.
Yeah, and it's not like Travis Kelce. This is Kyle Pitts.
Well, George Kittle was able to put up big numbers in his rookie year, and he had nothing to work with at quarterback.
Wait, George Kittle, big numbers his rookie year. Yeah, I have Kittle stats in front of me. His big rookie year numbers were 515 yards and 2 touchdowns.
He's talking about 2018. Ignore 2017.
George Kittle. Yeah. You're right. You're right. George Kittle in 2018, 1,377 yards. His sophomore year, and he was working with I don't even remember. It was Nick Mullins. Nick Mullins at quarterback.
I would literally
can Desmond Ridder
you're talking 2018 Nick Mullins wasn't even that bad.
He was pretty bad.
His first few games, no, he
wasn't going to be the starter.
In 2 games,
he was going to be the starter, but he was good in a pinch. But look at what you're going to have Mariota and Desmond Ridder, and you of all people know I was not high on Desmond Ridder.
I know you weren't high on Desmond Ridder,
so it's no.
But can he be good enough to provide production for Kyle Pitts? I think he can, especially with the talent of Kyle Pitts.
Production?
I think he can. Yeah.
All right, Neil. Look, we'll just agree.
Darren
disagree.
Waller
I'm
was
not
also
changing
able
your
to do
mind,
it
you're not changing
with Derek Carr not playing at a very good level.
I'm just saying that there seems to be a bit of a gap between Marcus Mariota and Derek Carr. There's a reason Derek Carr started over Marcus
but
Mariota
Derek Carr
in
was
Vegas
absolutely
last season.
trash a few years ago. He sucked.
Yeah, I would.
He's
still
only just
rather
starting to
have
get
him
better.
over Mariota.
Since his 2016 breakout campaign, he really hasn't done much, and he's just starting to get a career renaissance going. So let's not talk about how Derek Carr is this very good quarterback that he has been recently.
I didn't say he was very good. I'm just saying I would still, for 2017 onward, I would still rather take him over Marcus Mariota. And you seem to forget Derek Carr literally started over him. So you tell me who's better.
But I just don't think Mariota is going to have the starting job. And we're not talking about who's going to be better. It's whether or not they're capable of getting them to have good production. And George Kittle was able to do it with Nick Mullins. 1,377 yards, 5 touchdowns.
Yeah, but
if he does
that's a bit
that's
of a
top 2
leap.
production.
George Kittle is still Kyle Pitts. But whatever.
If he does
that's
top 2 production.
Oh my God, I can't believe what I'm hearing.
If he does that's top 2 production.
This is almost as bad as when Jay Hill
know.
said Julian Blackmon was a top 3 safety in the league. This is almost as bad as when Jay Hill said that.
Oh yeah, I heard that. That was interesting.
Who said what?
When Julian Blackmon was a top 3 safety in the league.
He didn't say that. It was
Didn't
the,
you say it was
that
the
Diggs
Seahawks
kid.
guy?
Seahawks.
Quandre Diggs.
That's not as bad. That's not as bad. Come on.
You're telling
Kyle Pitts as a rookie had an incredible season. I'm just saying he's going to make a big jump.
You think he's going to increase 300 plus more yards and 8 more touchdowns or 7 more touchdowns?
He could. I think he could.
A lot of things could happen. That doesn't necessarily mean it will happen. Based off the production you saw and the team surrounding him currently, you still believe this?
Because I think Kyle Pitts is going to get better.
Well,
when you have to put a team on his back, I don't think so.
He might not put the team on his back, but he'll put up good stats. George Kittle didn't put the team on his back that year. And Darren Waller has sure as hell didn't put the team on his back. You can't put a team on your back as a tight end. You can put up good production if you're a talented enough tight end, but you're not going to be able to make them a competitive team, regardless of what's around you. But you can be if you are talented enough, you can put up numbers.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, but I'm just saying with some of these tight ends, like Kittle, he was missed. If you take away Travis Kelce from the Chiefs, they lose a lot. But from Kyle Pitts, if you take him away, it's they're still going to be terrible one way or the other.
All right. Can we? All right. That's enough.
We're going to have to move on.
We'll move on. We are going on to our number 1, and I'm pretty sure we all have the same number 1.
I hope.
I hope too.
1, 2, 3. Hunter
Travis Kelce.
Travis Kelce.
Yeah, Travis Kelce.
Yeah, Travis Kelce. He's going to be generating a lot more attention from defenses, but he's also going to get a lot of attention from Patrick Mahomes. And Patrick Mahomes is going to find a way to get the ball to him. He'll get it to him just enough so that he can remain as the number 1 tight end. But he's still kind of just a wide receiver, but he's still, he's a great wide receiver who's good enough to generate, like we said, he's working with the best quarterback in the game. So he's going to put up numbers regardless. And the departure of Tyreek Hill is going to, those targets have to go somewhere. And a lot of them are going to go to Juju. A lot of them to Marcus Valdes-Scantling. A lot of them to Mecole Hardman. But most of them are going to go to Travis Kelce. And that is going to duplicate all the past few seasons that he's had that have become nothing short of spectacular for Kelce. And yeah, there you have it. There's our top 5. And I'm being ripped apart for my top 5. And like I said, if I were to make these again, I just have to stick with it because I made this list. I probably would have had Mark Andrews higher, probably at number 3. But I mean, we've had very busy schedules, and and some of these lists I've really had to just throw together. And Mark Andrews, whether he's 3-4, I've never been that high on Mark Andrews, but I still really like Mark Andrews. He's in the top 5 at least. I have him in my top 5. George Kittle as number 3. Like I said, he'd be number 2 or even number 1 if he wasn't healthy. Darren Waller, a guy who's going to get a lot of. He's just not going to have the same production with Devontae Adams in the mix. But he's still a tight end who I really like. Kyle Pitts is a guy who nobody likes as the number 2 going into next season. However, I'm going to go out on a limb, give the bold prediction, say he's going to have a top 2 year. And then we all stand in agreement having Travis Kelce as our number 1. So we're going to go on to our fan box, which is where we've done this pretty much all summer. We talk about each position and who you think is the most underappreciated, most underrated in the league. And we're going to lead off with tight ends on our offense. So we're going to get to that next. Don't go anywhere. This is the Fumblerooski podcast. You are listening to the Fumblerooski podcast by Power 88 and Fans Only Sports Network. Adam Wright, Justin Tucker, CJ Medieros, and we have reached towards the end of our show, and that means we are on to the Fumblerooski fan box. So what happens is we post a question filter on our Instagram every Monday, and you can respond with hot takes, questions, and more, and we will discuss it and give you a shout out on our podcast. So respond to next week's fan box question to be featured on our show. Now, the question of the week was, who is the most underrated tight end in the NFL? So as I said, this is a question underrated at every position that we've done all summer. We're going to continue to do it because that generates a lot more answers, and we get to appreciate some of the tight ends who don't really get much attention. So CJ Medeiros was the first response, and you can elaborate on this. Dalton Schultz.
Yeah. Now, when you think of the Cowboys, we all know about Ezekiel Elliott. They had Amari Cooper. CeeDee Lamb's the headliner. But Dalton Schultz quietly had a top 10 for the tight end season, 808 yards and 8 touchdowns. I don't know what to tell you. For a guy, who was like pretty obscure, like maybe known to some Cowboys fans before this season, like it seems like he came out of nowhere. And, they tagged him because he was in a contract year. And I feel like with the departure of Amari Cooper, his role will grow, and perhaps he could ascend to top 5.
Yeah, he could certainly get in there going into next year because and also Dallas trusts him enough so that they were willing to in the offense so that they were willing to trade away Amari Cooper, and they're giving a lot of trust in CeeDee Lamb. Who's the other guy? There was that other number 2 wide receiver, and I'm blanking on him real quick. Help me out.
Noah.
Gallup.
Michael Gallup. They're trusting Michael Gallup as the wide receiver 2 and the tight end Dalton Schultz, who you could almost argue that he'd be the number 2 option in that offense. So a lot of trust they have in him, and he's going to make a big jump because all those targets that Amari Cooper got, they're going to be spread out to those 3 guys. So we got a few responses. So I'm going to go through everyone who said Dalton Schultz. Grayson Mortimer also picked him. There was also, let's see. Just because I want to pick out all of those so that we don't have to reiterate on Dalton Schultz every single time. Where is Patrick Wilver said Schultz by a mile. So we got like 3 responses about that. Ian Malern said Dawson Knox. So that's one he is the definition of underrated. Over 500 yards. What do you have? 9 touchdowns. And if you were able to generate, or if you were able to earn that much trust from Josh Allen, that you're able to get more touchdowns than Stephon Diggs and anyone else in that offense, he had the most touchdown receptions out of that whole offense, then you're doing something right. And if he keeps it up, he could have another breakout year, another Dalton Schultz type year like last year. So Tyson Tate. So his first response, he had 2 of them. His first response was Dallas Goedert. This is a guy who has been stuck in Zach Ertz's shadow for his entire career, and he's finally had his time to shine. And boy did he. Over 800 yards. What was it, like 900 yards? I looked at it this morning, but I'd have to look.
Hold on, Adam. I have his stats in front of me. 830 yards and 4 touchdowns last season.
There you go. And he played most of that season with Ertz on the roster. Granted, Ertz was barely being used, but he was there. And he generated some targets. And the more the season went on, the more he was used. And that's not going to go away. And you have a very good offense around him, so that he's going to get plenty of attention. So I really like him. Tyson Tate, again, he said Irv Smith Jr. will have a breakout year. Mark my words.
I don't know about that.
Now, personally,
I like him, but what were you going to say?
I'm a bit of an Irv Smith fan. Now, his first 2 seasons in Minnesota, he was overshadowed by tight end mainstay for the longest time, Zach Ertz. He had 311 yards his rookie season.
Wait a second.
No, Kyle Rudolph. Sorry, Kyle Rudolph.
Yeah.
I am sorry. My brain does not want to cooperate with me. Next thing you know, I might fall off a bicycle. Wink, wink. Now,
Jesus.
Now, his sophomore season, Irv Smith had 365 yards and 5 touchdowns. Now that's not bad for tight end too. I was expecting him to break out this season, and then he went and got hurt. Not a lot you can do about that. But this season, I don't expect him to be 1,000-yard receiver, but I imagine him that he would be like a really good red zone threat. But in the middle of the field, all those targets are going to Jefferson and Thielen. So it's kind of like curb your enthusiasm a little bit, but he's definitely probably going to have a career year barring another injury.
All right. Yeah. Irv Smith Jr., I believe I looked at his stats. He had, I believe, 300 yards in each of his in each of his 3 seasons so far in his career. And I would like to think that his numbers would go up, and maybe he has a 500-yard season. The only problem is there's still Justin Jefferson on the roster, and there's still Adam Thielen over there. And that's going to generate a lot of targets. And they also love to throw the running backs. They love Dalvin Cook. And even when Dalvin Cook is out, they still like using Alexander Madison. So he's just going to be buried in the depth chart, at least just with Cousins, how he prioritizes his targets. Jefferson's number 1, Thielen's number 2, and then he'll probably throw to his running backs as well. He does like his tight ends, but not that much. So next response was Brady McEtherin, or Brady Etherin. I'm not sure.
I think it's Etherton.
Is it Etherton? All right.
Looks
Brady Etherton. My bad for the pronunciation. CJ Uzoma. And Uzoma, I do think, could see a much bigger workload than he did on the Bengals now that he's on the Jets. Now the Jets have a solid receiving core, but it's not anything like the powerhouse that the Bengals had. Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, And then you had Tyler Boyd as well. That's just like, you're never going to get enough targets. And he still managed to have 571 yards. And so he might have a better year than he did last year.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I would imagine.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So Brady Etherton, CJ Uzama. I like it. Grayson Mortimer. Yep, he's the one who said Dalton Schultz. Patrick Williver, Dalton Schultz by a mile. So that was a popular choice. Jack Hartman said David Njoku not going to be after this season, as in referring to not going to be underrated after this season. Look, they have the trust in him.
They paid him.
They have the faith in him.
Oh yeah, they paid him, but I mean,
they let their previous tight end one in Austin Hooper walk. They franchised David Njoku, and they paid him. What does that tell you? What does that tell you? They're seeing something in this kid that they really, really like him. So it's either they're going to be wrong, or he's primed for a breakout year.
Yeah, Adam, I agree. And after 5 seasons in this league, Njoku has amassed 1,754 yards and 15 touchdowns, never eclipsing 700 yards, never eclipsing 5 touchdowns. And it's just, I feel like this is officially his make or break year. If he can get over 700 yards and 5 touchdowns, then he'll stay. But if not, he might have to accept a backup role, you know?
Well,
He's making money similar to Mark Andrews. That's unacceptable.
You know what? He's going to have 4 years to prove it, because he's
that's
under
right.
Contract,
they extended him
to
that contract for I don't know why.
Also, if Deshaun Watson is on the roster on opening day, granted, who the hell knows what's going to happen?
That's a big if, and that's probably
that is like the biggest if I've ever heard.
Regardless, if or whenever Deshaun Watson arrives there,
if he plays again,
if it's next year, it's next year. But so will Dave Njoku be there as well. Whenever Deshaun Watson's back, if he's ever back, him throwing to Njoku is certainly going to help a lot. It's going to help a lot. That's going to help him a lot.
Yes.
And it's going to help his case to eclipse maybe 700 yards. So Zachary Stilson said, I'd say underrated potential-wise was definitely Noah Fant. So I think he said was referring to in the past few years. He was certainly underrated, and there were a lot of targets on that Denver Broncos team that were going before him. And they fell victim to quarterback play as well. Yeah. But now, so quarterback play might not get much better with Drew Lock still there, but he's going to have that familiar face for him to throw to. And Drew Lock, being in a new system, is going to see Noah Fant, and he's going to say, okay, that's a guy who I trust because I've been on his team before. And he also Fant also has the change of scenery working for him. And apparently Seattle really liked him for years. So Noah Fant, he does have the makings to have a breakout year, and he is underrated. I do like him. All right, where are we? Derek Hool said Zach Ertz getting slept on was a huge ad for the Cards last year. It appears all he needed was a change of scenery, wasn't it?
Yeah, and he's going to be a great safety blanket, during DeAndre Hopkins' suspension.
Yeah. Maybe saying he's old is a little too harsh. He might be a nice little safety blanket for Kyler Murray because, he's not as good as Lamar, but that's neither here nor there.
Year 2 in that system, and it clearly worked out for him when he barely knew the playbook.
Yeah.
So I really like it. I really like that one.
He looked good.
He did.
Oh, yeah. He had over 700 yards and 5 touchdowns, I think. So.
All right. And Stephen Parker said Hayden Hurst. So Hayden Hurst he's playing for Cincinnati now, which means he's basically the replacement for CJ Uzama. So the best he could probably do is replace CJ Uzama's production. He could probably replace his production at best, just because he's in the same he's in the same boat that CJ Uzama was when he was here. It's like, yeah, he's a solid tight end, but he's buried on the depth chart. Everybody's going to be better than him. Tyler Boyd who is their number 3 receiver, is in the passing game, is much further ahead of Hayden Hurst than Hayden Hurst ever was. So like, he could be better.
He's a wide receiver ahead of a tight end as far as route running.
As far as route running, as far as just Tyler Boyd's a very underrated receiver. I really like him.
Oh yeah.
But I was just naming off their number 3 guy just to show how far it is between Hurst and Boyd. And then I haven't even mentioned Chase and Higgins. But look, Hurst, he just needs the opportunities, and he can certainly get a lot better than what he has in the past. I think his best that one breakout season where he goes over 600 yards is ahead of him. He can still do that. Just he needs the right environment, and this could do it. This could. Pesky Pole Podcast, otherwise Robert Shelley, because he's trying to reignite that the former mighty Pesky Pole Podcast, which was a hit in the past, but he hasn't had the time. But that's neither here nor there. He said, "I've said it once and I'll say it again." And he's referring to how he mentioned this guy as who he was going to be the Super Bowl MVP. And he calls him, so he said CJ Uzama, but he said he pronounces it on purpose just to be funny. CJ, who's your mama? So he picked this guy for their Super Bowl MVP. Wasn't even close. The team didn't even, he didn't even get the right team to win. But CJ Uzama, again, so I'm not sure what else you guys want to add to him, but he's a guy he's in a better situation where he could put up better production.
Okay.
Yeah, there's really not a lot to add to that. We've been over it.
He's on the Jets. I wouldn't say it's the best. I wouldn't say it's just the Jets.
Right. So he'll be an option to, put up bigger numbers. Well, is it a winning situation? That's a tough one. But if he wants to put up, if we're talking about putting up better production, then I like CJ Uzama next year. I do. He can go over 600 yards. Perhaps he can hit 700. You never know. They do have whether or not they can win, that is a possibility. We talked about the AFC East last year. I can realistically see any of those teams making the division, making the twisting my words here, making the playoffs. The Jets are a bit of a long shot, but I can still see it happening if everything goes right with them. Obviously, it goes down to whether or not Mr. Wilson over there at quarterback can play. So any other thoughts before we end the show tonight?
Mark Andrews is top 3 bare minimum.
Hey, you don't got to tell me that. Tell that to Adam.
He knows who I'm looking at.
Look, if I were to do this, you can make a solid case that Mark Andrews would be number 3. And to put him number 4 is bold. To put Kyle Pitts number 2 is bold. I recognize that. But I'm trying to be bold. I don't want to create boring answers. Like, because top 5 tight ends, it's pretty. A lot of people have the same list, and sometimes it doesn't always work the way the preseason list goes. So, if I'm right about Kyle Pitts being number 2, if he winds up putting up the season that I predict him to do, then credit to me. If he doesn't, then I'll have egg in my face. But
you'll know who you'll hear from. I want you to recognize this now. If he doesn't have close to the season what you're recommending he'll have, you'll hear it from me.
If Kyle Pitts doesn't do it, you know how we post those reels of any sort of take that one of us has? I'll put that up and I'll put a caption, "Cold take alert." I will say that. If he if he posts if he regresses next year, which I don't think he will do, he'll be better. If he regresses or if he stays the same, cold take alert.
All right.
I'm calling it. All right?
All right, yeah, that's fair.
All right. Anything else? Nope.
No, I'm good. I'm
I
all right.
got nothing to add.
All right. Well, that'll do it for us tonight. Thank you for listening to us. Be sure to tune in to us live Tuesdays and Thursdays at 7:30 on Twitter and Facebook through Fans Only Sports Network. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Also, be sure to follow our Instagram at Fumblerooski_podcast to keep up with our podcast and latest coverage on the NFL. I skipped a part. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We also have all our episodes available on Spotify, Spreaker, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, and so much more. Obviously, our Instagram, I just mentioned that. Otherwise, we'll see you next week. Over and out.